Hello, everybody. Welcome back in Casual Sports Podcast live here from Youngstown, Ohio. I'm Alec Berna. That's Mike Wolfgang. That's Matt Morrison. Man, we had a crazy weekend, didn't we? Lots of big upsets, some really big surprises in the NFL, shocking end of the World Series, and sports is going full speed ahead right now, boys.
Yep.
Let's start the show how we always do. Question of the day from last Friday. Western Michigan linebacker Amir Ismail had 6 sacks and an interception on October 21st, 2006. How many sacks did he collect that season? The answer is 17. Question of the day for today. Which running back had the most yards rushing in a game to lead the 2011 season? Your options, Arian Foster, Marshawn Lynch, DeMarco Murray, Ray Rice, or Michael Turner. Leave your answer somewhere. Come on back tomorrow. See if you can get this one right. Might be a bit of a tricky one.
It might be.
Maybe.
Matt and I were talking. He got it wrong before, so don't give away your pick.
I won't.
All right. Well, let's start this off how pretty much we ended last week talking World Series. NLCS wrapped up. Atlanta took it home in 6. Matt, you were right. I thought honestly that Dodgers were going to be able to force Game 7. Didn't happen. Braves take it 4-2. Eddie Rosario gets the big shots, close it out, wins NL MVP for the NLCS. So I mean, big shout out of him. And obviously Houston taking home their win in 6 as well. Now both teams matching up in the World Series. Coming off some pretty hot series. When you look at the Astros to finish that one out, they win 3 of the last 4 games of the series to take Boston in 6 games. And obviously the Braves, we know how hot they've been, just in this entire postseason. When you go back to the All-Star break, it's a team that's basically under 500, and they storm back second half of the season, and now have pushed it all the way to the World Series. And we got one heck of one coming up here tomorrow night. So,
I mean, I do. When we talked about these on Friday, I think I picked both of these being 6.
You may have said.
I know.
I
I
may have said
Braves.
Braves in 7.
You might have said
Braves. I know I said Astros, but
I picked the Braves, man.
Yeah.
Oof, Braves.
But go ahead, Matt. You want to preview on the
Yeah,
Braves side?
We got Morton versus
everybody.
Valdez on the mound too to start Game 1.
Ooh,
Good pitching battle.
Yeah, Morton was supposed to go Game 7 if there was a Game 7. Yeah, so give him Game 1.
Makes sense.
Yeah, but everybody's talking about Eddie Rosario. This guy's awesome, which he is. He really is. He hit that home run to get him up 4-1.
Yeah.
And then but I really got to talk about Tyler Matzik. This guy came in after Jackson just not having it.
The guy that was out of the league too.
Yeah.
So
Jackson came in, let the Dodgers score another run. You had runners on second and third, then you bring in Tyler Matzik going up against these dangerous hitters. He strikes out Pujols, Souza Jr.,
Yes,
and this guy was a pinch hitter. And then you strike out Mookie Betts. 1, 2, 3. There was no outs in the inning. This guy came in and went to work. And he went 2 full innings, too. Usually he only does 1 inning. It was just amazing.
Man, I'm glad you brought up the bullpen because we were talking throughout the series, me and you, but you were kind of concerned about the bullpen. To be honest, though, especially in the series, it kind of was their strength.
Yeah.
I mean, they were able to use the opener at games where they didn't have a full starter, so they were able to start a bullpen guy. And it picked up the slack. I mean, every time... what's his name?
Who?
Not Luke Jackson. Who was the other? Not Matzik. Who was the other one?
Chavez?
No, not Chavez. But anyway, anytime the bullpen came up in big spots, they were able to get outs, and they were able to get outs against big hitters. So that was pretty much outside of their hitting and getting time with hitting with Eddie Rosario and some other guys. That was probably one of their strengths.
Minter.
Yeah,
Minter.
Yeah.
He's good too. Matzik and Minter are like the stars of that bullpen, and then of course your closer Will Smith, who came in and closed it off beautifully, and he grew up. I like how they put in at the end that he grew up a Braves fan, raised in Georgia, and ended up sending them to the World Series. That's awesome.
Big moment, and you know what? One interesting fact I think you look at going into this World Series, Major League Baseball hasn't had a repeat champion this entire century. Mm-hmm. So we're going to get a new champion yet again. No back-to-backs here so far. Dodgers had the chance. They couldn't get back to it. And I think you also have to look at the Dodgers' takeaways. Once again, they get to the NLCS, and once again, they can't get to the World Series. They've made it, 1 out of the last 5 they've been in? I mean, they've gone to 5 straight NLCSs.
Yeah.
They've gone to the World Series in one of those. Is it time for a potential rebuild for Los Angeles?
I don't know about rebuild, but maybe you can say a coaching change because they've been in the World Series 2 times. They lost, and last year they got there and won. And like you said, the NLCS it kind of haunts them sometimes. And even the division series the year before against the Nationals, they lost in the division series against a team they probably should have beat.
Yeah.
So I maybe look at Dave Roberts. Sometimes his decision making, in terms of managing the pitching, isn't always the best. So if you want to point it there, but I mean, it's not on the players really.
No.
So what are your guys' thoughts now going into the World Series? Both teams coming off 6-game series. A lot of their starting pitchers are burned, and now basically everyone's going in short rest, 1 day off. Or I guess 3 days off going into the World Series. What are you guys' thoughts going into this? First 2 in Houston, next 3 in Atlanta, final 2 in Astros if needed.
So my thoughts coming first with the Astros on their side. So do they have enough pitching? I mean, so far it's been enough, obviously. They made it to the World Series, but can they sustain what they have? Or can they get by with what they have? Is their lineup going to stay as hot as it has been? Is there any stopping it? Are the Braves able to slow it down? Because you're not really going to stop it, but are you able to slow it down?
I mean, you look at their last 3 games, you just have to point out bullpen-wise, they've only allowed 3 runs in games 4, 5, and 6 against the Red Sox. Then offensively, 23 runs. So the hitting has been there.
It has.
As you're saying, can they keep that up?
And I questioned the pitching a little bit, but they've been one of the consistent teams all year in terms of being a rock solid team. So they've had guys step up. So it's obviously been enough.
And Morton going against his former team too. Morton was on the Astros. I'm sorry to go back, but I got to go back real quick. The Dodgers, no Clayton Kershaw for some reason. I don't know. I've looked over it. I don't know why he wasn't playing. You didn't have Kershaw. You didn't have Trevor Bauer either because he was going through his troubles. So if you put those players on their pitching staff, it might be a little different. But they might, like you said, they might lean towards a rebuild because a bunch of their players, including Kershaw, Scherzer, Seager, and Chris Taylor, are all free agents next year.
I mean, it might be a lot of money to bring everybody back too. So it might be a good spot. Go grab a bunch of young guys and see if you can. Make a roster that can last the next decade like you just did for the 10s. I mean, they built a roster that throughout the 2010s, they were one of the best teams coming out of the National League. Despite the fact they didn't win much, they still had a team that was always competing. When you're in a big market, that's what you want to have. It's not always about championships because, you give or take those. Sometimes it's just a miracle run for one team, but you need to be a team that is consistent. So this could be a good chance, maybe one down year, bring in a new manager, and see what happens coming next season. Because they have a lot of young guys to work with. They have a lot of big hitters, but as you said, they have a lot of big contracts expiring. So cap space is going to blow wide open for the Dodgers.
And a guy like Chris Taylor is a guy they need to keep. And a guy like Trey Turner, I mean, it's going to take a lot to keep him back, but that's a guy you traded for. And to flip it over on the Braves side, talking about this matchup here, can their pitching be enough to limit the Astros offense? Because as I talked about, it's going to be hard to stop them. But can you limit it? Can you
Dodgers
limit those
big on them a few times too?
Yeah, can you limit those big home runs because the Astros get that constantly? And the Braves have gotten timely hits too. That's been what they've been riding on this postseason. They haven't been outside of a couple games. They haven't really been blowing anybody out.
No.
So can they continue to get timely hits? Eddie Rosario and Freeman.
A couple big blowouts.
And speaking of Freeman, he's going to have to lead them. I mean, he's their
leader, and he's been their leader, and he has to lead him. And he has led them. I mean, he's hit a bunch of home runs, base hits. He's done everything he can in this, But
he's going to take it up a little bit more.
I mean, even on the defensive side, he made a pick that he did a full split, making that pick out of the ground from the throw from Austin Riley, and it was unbelievable the pick he made. It's like, holy cow! Like this guy stretches every day.
Yeah. Well, Mike, as you were saying about the. Can the Braves outslug the Astros and get those? All they've done is get the timely hits when you needed it. They find one. When you go back to their series, look at their wins. A 1-point win over the Dodgers in Game 1. Same story in Game 2. They lose by 1 in Game 3. Then finally they get the bats going. One game in this entire series, they got the bats actually rolling along, and they win by 7 in Game 4. But Games 5, they obviously lose by 9. Only were able to get 2 runs on the board. And then Game 6, if it's not for their bullpen, this game goes 7.
Yeah, I'm not doubting Astros because obviously you just ran through the Dodgers. I mean, Dodgers have one of the better lineups in the league as well. Right. So they were able to do it against the Dodgers, the defending champs. So
bullpen was able to keep the Dodgers quiet enough. I want to see if the bullpen can have a repeat. As you were saying, can they keep the Astros at bay? Didn't all but Game 5.
There were games in the Dodgers series where they went with openers in their bullpen. So their bullpen put it down, and that's what you need in baseball, especially in playoffs, is timely hitting. So I look for Astros, pardon, and that's what they're going to have to do because they don't. It's hard to outslug the Astros, like I said, and not many teams can do it.
Well, let's go ahead, make some picks. I think we'll save Matt for last since he's got a team involved here. But, Mike, why don't you lead this thing off? How many games, who takes it?
I'm kind of going back and forth on it. I'm going Astros in 6.
Astros in 6. So, obviously, there's been a lot of talk, the Atlanta curse, right? Comebacks and, blowing big leads. LCS. They don't let it happen this year. They seem to be on some sort of miracle run, and now they're going up against the big Astros, right? Oh, the team everybody hates, the big villain of Major League Baseball now. But I think kind of is grouped together and we all hate the Astros.
I mean, I'm voting for the Braves, but I don't know.
And, you get the bad guys versus the ultimate underdogs and the Braves and David versus a Goliath feel. Just remember, David's still... And I'm taking David here. I got the Atlanta Braves. I'm taking Atlanta.
It'd be great for them to win on their home field, too, in Game 5, because they have 3, 4, and 5 at home.
That would be huge.
I think it's pretty... That's the way I've been I'm gonna go here. But I'm going to go over some things here. The Astros, a lot of people forget that they were in the National League for a long time.
They were in Pittsburgh's division.
Yeah. And so they've met up with before 97, 99, 2001. The Braves, beat them the games. Season. Yeah. And then 04 and 05 beat them in, playoffs. But so they own the record 3-2 if you want to go
you're talking about
history-wise.
teams from 20 years ago.
Yeah, you want to go history-wise. But
yeah, that's when the Bulls... You're pulling this from when the Bulls were a good team in the NBA.
Yeah.
And the Lions weren't the absolute worst.
But I think this series is going to go back and forth a lot. I think there's going to be some exciting games. Yordan Alvarez, the guy who just won the AL MVP for a reason. Or, the ALCS MVP for a reason. I think he's going to be a presence on the at the plate.
He's a guy I worry about.
Yeah, so I think the Braves have to adjust their pitching to get guys like that out. They brought in. Sometimes they use pitchers to get the first 2 batters and quick take them out and put another pitcher in. Maybe they'll have to do that here. Just they have to adjust. And the Braves have been known to score less in games. They have to score big here to take the the Astros down. So
what do you
I gotta go Braves. I'm going 6 games.
This could be a lot like when the Nationals played the Astros 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Same type of thing.
Yeah.
So I hope you guys are right.
It's gonna be tough.
Well,
oh god.
Well, unfortunately, your guys' team lost, and we have to talk about it.
I'm not gonna run from it.
Frankly, I mean, this was your guys' fluke game. You did not survive. You pushed it as far as you could, but it just came down to luck of Fighting Illini, and they go from being 2-5 on the season now 3-5. First time in college football history we go 9 overtimes. Before we go any further, I want to talk a little bit about the new overtime format for college football. I'm not a fan of it. Once you hit the 3rd overtime, you alternate 2-point conversions. Matt, you and I were talking about it before. I just think it's silly.
Well,
it seems like a gimmick.
I have a feeling you probably think the same way, but this has nothing to do with my team going through this. I'm just talking overall. When it goes as long as 9 overtimes like this, which doesn't happen because you said it hasn't happened, but how after 2 overtimes after you started 25, from there on out, how are you supposed to get any type of momentum? After one play, you switch again. I mean, how are you supposed to gain anything? You
go back 2019 season, you get LSU, Texas A&M, they're going, I think it was 6 overtimes or 7 overtimes, tied for the most in NCAA history. And they were going at it, and it was intense, it was aggressive, and you kind of felt something on the line every single time out. And you didn't. I don't really think you felt it with the same way with this. Obviously, it was a big moment because it was, Illinois fighting for the upset, and a massive upset at that. But at the same time, it just never really felt like it was a big moment. Can you imagine if we get down to college football playoff time and they go to triple overtime, which doesn't happen, but can you imagine if it does and you start doing 2-point conversions? Like, how boring of a way to finish a college season would that be? And I think that's what you have to talk about when you go to this. This isn't about regular season games that obviously matter, but not everyone's going to care about if you're not a team contending all the time. But if you are one of those teams contending and you go all the way down to it and say, you have a bad, red zone defense, you're going to get killed going into this style of overtime.
It's like I said, it's that too, the style of it, and like how do you, after one play you can't get it in. It's like it's not football.
I don't know what offensive coordinator is supposed to do because their entire game plan builds on what the defense reacts to on that drive. The defense is coming out with a different set every time, and now really they just have to go 4 guys on the line, send 7 guys back right on the goal line, just spread all the way down, and it becomes very easy to defend. And you saw it. There was 10 possessions back and forth, nothing got into the end zone in this, and then finally, you both score in the 8th, and then fighting a line, I get it in the 9th.
We always talk about in football.
It's like baseball.
With teams, it comes down to the end, in this case, overtime. To me, it's just a bad way to end the game. It's just not football. It's like you don't gain any type of momentum with one play you switch.
It just seems like a gimmick, right?
It's just weird.
Alec and I were talking about this earlier, and I think that after first, second overtime, instead of going to the to the 2-point conversions, I say you leave it up to the kick. Let the kicker goals. If you make it, move them back. I think that would be great.
Back and forth. I mean, if they're going to go gimmick style like this and make it complete nonsense, might as well go all the way and do your way.
I mean, move it back every time because field goal kick it costs games.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go out like a way like this, you might as well do that.
Right. I mean, everybody loves it in soccer when they go to shootouts, right?
Yeah, and even in hockey.
Yeah,
exactly.
hockey.
Shootouts are one of the most exciting parts, of sports, and we don't really get that in college. This could be a great chance for them to do that. Obviously, I don't think that's ever going to happen. They're not going to let kickers decide football games, in overtime.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, because then that also eliminates the point of, what if they fake it and try and throw it somewhere you can't do that anymore? So I don't think that'll happen because then there's too much other stuff in it. But I just don't feel like this is the right format. And Matt, I think I kind of even told you, I think there should be a blend between NFL style and college. I like both teams getting a possession.
Yeah.
But I don't think you start at the 25-yard line. I think you start back at your own 25, like the NFL does. You have to drive a 75-yard field.
Yeah.
I think that works.
That'd be great.
And I like that style. I like both teams getting a chance, and then you just keep alternating that. That gives both offense and defense a chance. Some teams aren't built, for short 25-yard drives sometimes. They rely on deep balls and getting guys downfield using their speed. It's hard sometimes to use speed if you're great route runners for, frankly, like fighting a lion eye. They don't necessarily have the best wide receivers, but they got some guys with speed, and you can use that and catch a defender, and burn them accidentally and go 75 yards for a touchdown. It's a lot hard to do that on a 25-yard field.
And you know what? When, like in this case with the overtimes, you have the ball starting out at, a 3 or 4 yard line inside the 5?
Yeah.
It's like,
out there on the
how many different types of offensive plays can you run? I mean, the defense is loading up on you, so what can you really do differently? That's why we saw it go 9 overtimes, because you can't really do anything differently when you're inside that range, because people are loading up against you. It's just hard to get anything going. That's why I just don't like the format. Overall, no matter who it is, it's just weird to watch and end up.
Well, how about we get into your guys' game a little bit?
Yeah.
Pass defense was great. Rush defense, not so much. 365 yards split between Chase. Great. Before we talk about Penn State's defense, can we just give credit to those two real quick for the amount of numbers they put up there?
Those are some Brett Bielema backs right there, especially McCray. That guy was he showed the speed and he showed the muscle too, man. He trucked some guys.
That's that Wisconsin run game that he came from. So that's what they were. That was their bread and butter in this. Give them credit; they were running everywhere. And like I said, Matt, and I talked about this after the Iowa game, and I don't think I can say this enough. Nose tackle on this defensive line. That's half the reason why I couldn't stop the run in this game. The captain on their defensive line. It's obvious how much they missed them. That was a big problem. In all day, they couldn't find any way to stop this run. They weren't doing anything special. They're running the same play every.
They just ran the ball when they had to. And on our offensive side, you got to get it. 100%. But Illinois just attacked that. They knew he wasn't going to be 100%. They knew they had a bye week, and he got licked pretty good the week before that. They were going to come at him, and that's what they did. They hit him for loss. I think they didn't pick him off.
Negative 28 yards for Sean Clifford running.
Yeah.
But I think that might bode well for Clifford going up against Ohio State. Ohio State's not a team that really gets a lot of sacks most of the time. They can get back there, but I think with at least the wide receivers core of Penn State. They might get a chance against Ohio State next week. Basically doesn't bring pressure. Sean this week, obviously going up against defensive back, so the numbers might not be out of the world, but I think he has a better day, completion, touchdown, scrambling, not taking those hits, maybe finding a rhythm.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Matt, you said it perfectly there. He was just under pressure all day long. The rush game couldn't really get going. I mean, you look at your top three backs there, none of them were over 50. Noah Cain with 43, and then Lee and Love at 24 and 21 respectively. It didn't really feel like there was any flow to this offense. Maybe that was just Sean Clifford still dealing with the injury, and then obviously the overtime, no chance to get a rhythm whatsoever.
Because usually Clifford takes off for some runs too. He didn't run at all. Negative 28 yards.
To go off what you're saying with Clifford, and like you're saying, Matt, too. Even James Franklin said it. Obviously, he was limited. He wasn't 100%. The strength of his game is normally breaking outside and getting some yardage. Yeah. He couldn't do that on Saturday. And like you're saying, I'll give you credit too, because you said this all year. Me and Matt talked about these running backs all year. I'm not blaming these running backs, but they haven't been able to get anything going.
Yeah.
And it's not all on them too. It's the offensive line. They played bad on Saturday. They couldn't get any running game going, and that put a lot on Clifford when he wasn't 100%. And that's a lot to put on him when he was coming off an injury like that. And a game where they couldn't get anything going offensively, that's to put on his shoulders.
I just think, looking ahead for the rest of the season, I would say college football playoff most likely out of the reach now for Penn State, falling down to 20 in the rankings. It would take a lot of losses in front of you guys to be able to get there, and I know you guys both said, I don't really know if I want to face Georgia this year. But I think this is a game.
That's not a good bowl game,
I think Ohio State might give them a chance with number one offense, number one defense. I think it'll at least be fun.
It'll be entertaining.
But I think a lot of people are going to look at this game now for Penn State in next week against Ohio State. I think the spread's going to open very large for Ohio State in that game. I don't think it's going to be that close because obviously, as we have noticed,
it's currently 18.5.
Okay, I have a feeling it might get bigger before that. Before we hit Saturday.
It will.
But I think the part here with Sean Clifford, obviously he's injured. Everyone's going to look at this, he sucks, back from injury. Not everyone gets the full picture if they don't watch the game, right? Okay. So you're going to get a lot of people go, Ohio State's going to blow Penn State out. I think we see a better Sean Clifford next week against Ohio State. Obviously, not going to be under pressure. Ohio State doesn't bring the blitz. They have some good defensive linemen, and I think, Haskell the Rascal Garrett's going to get back there. Hittman's going to get back there. JTT is going to get back there. And they're going to get pressure on Clifford, but you're not going to see six-man blitzes like you did against Illinois. Seven Banks will be locked down in coverage in that game. But I mean, I think it's going to be a game Penn State's going to hold Ohio State a lot closer than I think the so-called experts are going to say, because you look at this game and we don't really know what Sean Clifford's going to look like going into that one. And it was kind of same story with Ohio State beginning of the season with C.J. Stroud dealing with an injury. You saw those first two games and they were crap on offense, and then he takes the game off and they come back and they're number one offense in the country. I think you might see a similar bounce with that with Clifford. Obviously, a very experienced guy. He's gone up against Ohio State, fourth year now? I mean, I feel like Penn State just has one quarterback stay there for 5 years, and you see what happens against Ohio State. I mean, Sean Clifford, the biggest reason this team has ever been close against Ohio State was Clifford's legs. So if he can get back to using his legs and running in that game, I think it opens up Penn State's chance for what would end up being an upset.
And go ahead, man.
In our defense, I don't know what it was at one point.
It was top going 3 into Iowa.
Yeah, it was like the top rank.
It was top 5 after that too.
Yeah, we're still. I think it's
still top. You only let 20 points up in this game.
We're still.
It's not like it was your defense's fault. This was just the offense lack of production.
That's right, and I still think they're a good defense, and they're going up against the top offense. This defense definitely has to play in check. Brisker. And
Joey Porter
Jr. as well. They were showing coverage of his dad during that game. I felt like that dad was just going to beat up the referees or something.
But one more thing concerning before we move on, and I told you this after the game, Matt. It's just as a fan, it's concerning, and it's like this type of stuff needs to stop happening. Middle of the year, the last 4 or 5 years, collapses like this happening. And James Franklin, as much as I like him, and as good as a recruiter he is, I'm not 100% saying he's the issue, but something has to change. They need to start developing guys better. They need to maybe change their whole game plan, because it's always like they have just one receiver to go to and that's it.
They only have dots, and I think
it's like I just don't know what James Franklin, as good as he is recruiting, is he going to get to that next level that he talked about a couple years ago?
You guys have the number one class coming in next season.
We have
number
the
one running back, or it's like number one wide receiver, number one quarterback, number one lineman, number one defensive back or something. I mean, it's stacked next season. I'm interested to see.
And this is
2 years.
also-
I think you give Franklin another 4 years.
And
if nothing changes in 4 years, you might pull the trigger on it. But I think he's still too good of a head coach to just let go free, because obviously there's a huge market for him.
He is.
We've seen it these past few weeks with teams, firing their head coaches. Every candidate number one is James Franklin. There's obviously a huge market, and I think it's too dangerous to let this guy slip away from you based on the fact I don't know if there's a coach right now that fits Penn State as well as James Franklin.
I agree.
I don't think there's someone you can go out there and get.
Agree.
I think this might be a situation you have to go approach him and go, all right, we're firing everybody but you.
I think
Except the defense coordinator.
Except defense. Brent Pry. He's one of the best defense coordinators in the country.
Absolutely.
So keep the defense. Keep
this in mind too.
Keep Franklin, fire everyone else.
This is Mike Yursich, our offensive coordinator. This is his first year with us, so he's still getting comfortable too. So, but
it's like every guy they brought in since Moorhead left has been run the same type of offense. Like they need to change things up.
They do.
I think you have to go honestly. Find an SEC coach.
You
saw what it did to Ohio State. They brought in Urban Meyer from the SEC.
You're right,
and he revolutionized Big Ten football and has dominated since. He touched foot at Ohio State, and they've dominated the Big Ten, and frankly, it's not even close anymore when you look at how they play versus how the rest of the Big Ten plays. Other teams from around the 10 need to start looking at Ohio State and base it off of them and stop playing Big Ten football, because frankly, Big Ten football doesn't win championships anymore. It hardly wins football games.
And with Penn State, one more thing.
Same thing with Iowa. Iowa had the same problem.
It's like I'm tired of these middle points of the year when they lose to like an Iowa, which is okay. But
Coach
a loss like I don't want Coach O.
As an offensive coordinator, potentially at another school, not saying Penn State, but
that'd be awesome.
At another team, I think if he moves away from head coaching and sits, I don't think he will, but I think he could potentially move in as a good offense coordinator, defense coordinator. You saw how he worked with Joe Burrow.
Yeah. I don't know. With this type of stuff in the middle of the year, like I keep saying, losses that should not happen coming out, especially after bye week. This isn't what Penn State is, Matt. It's. You talk about they're one of the better brands. I'm tired of this time in the middle of the year having to, depend on other teams to try to make a playoff run and just shooting for, we'll just take a New Year's Six games. I'm fine with that. No, this is Penn State. I'm tired of just settling for stuff like that.
Yeah.
Things have to change. Stuff like this can't happen anymore.
Frankly, as a Buckeye fan, it kind of makes me sick. I wanted to be the team that handed you guys your second loss now. Because it would build my team's resume. Going in there against a top 10 team and giving more credibility to the entire conference. Having a good top 10 matchup that results in, the better team winning. Whichever team came out on top. You would either send Ohio State as a 2-loss team or Penn State as the 2-loss team. Now it comes in, it's like, well, Penn State has a chance to kind of ruin the Big Ten's chance of competing this year for the college football playoff. And Michigan State and Michigan are still undefeated, but do they really stand any chance against Georgia? No. The only team right now I think in college football that stands a chance is Ohio State.
And you're right with...
And you do.
Yeah.
You're right.
It's only because they have the number one offense, and I think that's the only way you can beat Georgia is just being explosive. I mean, you look at the wide receiver core, it's why Alabama won last year. They had the greatest wide receiver core in football, and now Ohio State has that. That's the only way you can win a game against a team like Georgia.
And you're right about wanting them to win this game against Illinois and coming into this week, having one loss. Both teams having one loss. But it's like, it's hard for me as a fan to get excited because, say by chance Penn State wins, it doesn't matter that much because they already have 2 losses. They have no chance to win the conference. So, yeah, it's a great win if they win, but it doesn't matter anymore.
Exactly.
It's...
You got some?
We do have some breaking news. Texas Tech just fired their head coach, Matt Wells.
All right. Well, let's move it on here. Another game in college football. Pitt took down Clemson by 10 points. They continue to build their resume, and I think it just comes down one simple question. With 5 games left on the schedule and potentially only UNC and Syracuse giving them problems down the line, maybe Virginia, is Pitt legit, and can they make it to the college football playoff, and do they stand a chance?
I'm not sure if they're 100% legit.
Oh, they're getting there, though. They are getting there.
I think they've shown consistency, though, and that's what you like out of them. The offense is consistent, the defense is right there, and you really go back, this last month they've dominated. They need to dominate for the next month, and I think that's when you say it. Blowouts against Miami, Duke, UNC. Take those 3, and we'll see come down final 2 weeks what you are. And I think right now, ACC's kind of... It still feels open. Obviously, Virginia and UNC, the next 2 teams up in the Coastal behind Pitt. But I mean, 1 or 2 more wins and Pitt seals the coastal division. Wake Forest on the other side, though, their offense is on fire. Their defense is, wide open.
Yeah, and with Pitt, they're playing well. I'm not discrediting them at all. They're ranking wise, they're the best team in Pennsylvania right now after the crapshoot we saw on Saturday. But with the way Pickett's playing, you can't. He has their offense looking good, but can the guys around him continue to keep producing? They're always pretty solid on defense. But as I often say, I have a friend who's a Pitt fan, and he usually tells me there's games that they lose that they shouldn't lose. And are there?
Yep.
I'm not guaranteeing any more losses.
Team.
But are there games on their schedule I think they could lose? I'm not guaranteeing them, but yeah, I could see them slipping up against North Carolina or Virginia or somebody.
I think a lot of chance for
that's why I'm not 100% convinced with them yet, because there's still games that they need to win that sometimes they tend to lose. So I want to see a little bit more.
And I mean, Kenny Pickett is the guy that you want to see do a little more, and he's the perfect guy for that. I mean, they haven't been talking Heisman about him for no reason. The guy had a great performance on Saturday against Clemson. So, I mean, he's got great targets to go to. I like their running back. And, I mean, I think they are legit. They're getting there.
I'm just concerned about slip-ups for them because they have a very good reputation of doing
that. They have that one loss, Western Michigan, 44-41. People are like, oh, they lost to Western Michigan.
That's their fluke.
That's their fluke. That is their fluke game.
And they didn't survive. But, unfortunately, we have to move on here to some other games on the slate. Some big ones. Saints versus Seahawks here tonight. It's kind of a toss-up game. 3-2 Saints, 2-4 Seahawks. Obviously, Seahawks coming off the overtime loss to the Steelers, lost to the Rams after they beat the 49ers October 3rd. So it's been 22 days since the Seahawks picked up the win. And obviously, the Saints at 3-2. Their one real big, impressive win came all the way beginning of the season.
Week 1.
38-3 against the Packers. Since then, this doesn't look like a team that should be anywhere near competing for anything. They obviously beat Washington 2 weeks ago. Then they lose in overtime against the Giants. They beat the Patriots, who they lost to the Panthers, who frankly look like one of the worst teams in football now, and have benched their starting quarterback in the last game and lost to the Giants. Yeah. So, I think you look at this game, this is just kind of a crap game for Monday night. I mean, it might be good because I think both teams are kind of looking to find something here. So you might just get a good game, but I don't really think at the moment it really means much.
You're right, and I think it'll be a good close game, but like you said, it's pretty much a toss-up because both these teams are struggling. You have injuries on the Seahawks side. The Saints are too inconsistent. Their offense is better than the Seahawks, but their offense has also been inconsistent, and so is a play of Jameis Winston and some other guys.
Yeah, and I mean, New Orleans opens here as a -4-point favorite against the Seahawks, so obviously very close. Over-under is 41.5. I don't know if we'll get that much offense, honestly.
I doubt it as well.
It just doesn't feel like we've had a very offensive season from both teams, so I have a feeling I think it'll be under. I think it'll be just under, though, that 41.5 point.
Yeah, I think it'll be under because, I mean, it's kind of hit or miss with the Saints. I mean, sometimes Kamara's goes off, and I don't know we'll see what they do tonight with him.
Seahawks picked up Jacob Eason, from the Colts. So if Geno Smith, kind of wets the bed, you can put Eason in there.
He did some decent things against the Steelers, though. I see you driving them.
I see they go with him. But they might run the 2-quarterback system. You never know.
I don't think that's where they're run with it. I think they like Geno Smith, and that was kind of just we need a backup quarterback type of move. So I don't think they're going to go that far. So how about we go ahead and make picks here for Monday Night Football, Saints versus Seahawks. I'm going to go straight away. I think Saints take this one. Obviously, Seahawks, still question marks for Rashad Penny coming back off the IR. Never really know the limitations he's going to be in. They haven't had much of a rushing game. Obviously, Chris Carson out too, and no starting quarterback. DK Metcalf really hasn't been the same this season. Lockett kind of seems like the only guy who's at least shown some consistency, but now no quarterback really to get it to him. I have the Saints taking this one. I have them winning it. I'd say 20-14.
I think that's a good score. And I'm going to go Saints as well. I think it comes down to offense, and I think their offense is better. But both teams are still struggling. Like I said, they're still finding themselves, but I think the Saints' offense is better, and that's what it's going to come down to. I'm going to go Saints. Leave the 17 on, but I'm going to go the other way around.
Okay.
I'm going to go 20-17.
20-17. All right. Matt, you sticking with your Hawks?
This injuries are just battling them right now. I guess gotta go Saints.
Saints.
Yeah, we'll go Saints.
warm weather fan.
Seems to impress me either.
I'm not a warm weather fan. I just like Russell Wilson. I gotta go 2013.
Jeez, what a boring game we got tonight. If this is the case, I mean, it might end up being that. So I guess we'll find out here. But we got to talk this one real quick. Titans versus Chiefs. Mahomes gets put on the bench. Chad Henne came in, and this was just an overall terrible game for the Chiefs. Their defense is like butter, and Derrick Henry was a flaming knife. He also had a touchdown pass. He had one more touchdown pass than Patrick Mahomes in this one for 5 yards. And he also had 86 yards to the ground. And frankly, it was his worst rushing performance on the season, and he still put up 86 yards.
First of all, you used the hot butter knife one way too much.
Oh, well.
But, you use it in the right moments, though. Derrick Henry, man, the guy is just an animal. He's a bull horse. He will run over you. Defenses have to set up to stop him. They set up, they plan everything out, and they still can't stop him. He runs everywhere.
And, I think you kind of look at this game, and we kind of said it. Ryan Tannehill, we haven't really seen much, Mike. That's why you and I took the Chiefs in this one.
Yeah.
We just didn't think the Chiefs' offense wasn't going to do anything. The Chiefs' offense was just, frankly, terrible, and Tannehill had a good game, and I think that's kind of what we were waiting to see if he could have one, and he did when Derrick Henry didn't have spectacular time. A.J. Brown went off, 133 yards and a touchdown. You saw other parts of the Titans finally pick up the slack, and Derrick Henry, I think, was able to not feel so pressed to score so much, break off the big runs, and dominate the Chiefs the way he's dominated everyone else. And I think it was a full performance here for the Titans.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think what you're saying with the Titans, I think they're starting to get some things going because they're starting to get the passing game going a little bit. Guys are healthy. Obviously, you got Derrick Henry. So, the last 2 wins, they had the Bills and Chiefs. The Chiefs are struggling, but it's still a good win at home. They blew them out. They had a good win against the Bills. But the Chiefs side, way too many turnovers, especially out of Patrick Mahomes. That's got to stop. I mean, their defense stinks, so you got to take care of the ball on offense. That's the biggest issue.
I think this has to bode one question. Is Derrick Henry your MVP candidate right now? You look at him, he's on pace to break the single-season rushing record, 869 yards. Although you look at his last season, 2,000 yards, 5.4 yards per carry, 17 touchdowns. Right now he's at 869 yards, 4.5 yards per carry with 10 touchdowns. I think right now, I don't know anyone that's having a stronger season than him. Obviously, it doesn't really feel like the MVP is a running back award anymore. It doesn't feel like it's your most valuable player. It's like who played the best at quarterback. It's kind of what it feels like these days. And you look at the current MVP odds, Josh Allen's number 1, Murray's number 2, Prescott's number 3, Tom Brady's 4. You go Matt Stafford's 5, Rodgers is 6, Herbert 7, Carr is 8, and then Derrick Henry is at 9. And then Lamar Jackson's 10th.
How is Derrick Henry that far down?
I don't understand that. I mean, he's on pace to be the best running back in NFL history in one single season, and he's in 9th place of the MVP odds. Frankly, I don't know how Carr, Herbert, Rodgers, Stafford are above him. Maybe the next 4 with, Brady's had some big games. Obviously, Prescott has had big games, and obviously
Murray.
Allen and Murray are leaders, the 2 best teams in football potentially right now. But I think Derrick Henry at least is in a top 5 conversation right now for it. I mean, obviously his numbers aren't as great as they were last year, which he probably could have won it then as well. But I just have the feeling it's like, does he not deserve it? What more can you ask a running back to do these days?
No, he deserves it, and he deserves to be in the top 5. I mean, my top 5 is probably him,
Allen,
Murray, Dak, Murray, I guess maybe Tom Brady.
I think I'd have Lamar Jackson right outside.
Lamar Jackson
he's right there too.
I mean, can you tell me most valuable doesn't have a running back and his team is still winning? Big? Also, obviously, besides the Bengals game, but
I don't know how his odds are that low.
That
I don't understand that.
Bengals are they're smoking,
yeah.
So
it's like Joe Burrow with the cigar
yeah,
after the
there's
LSU
another
win.
one. Why isn't Burrow even in
He's
the top?
11th.
He's 11th?
He's right behind Lamar.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, a lot of big question marks. 20 minutes here. We're going to move into some NBA. If we have time, we'll hit back to the NFL. But we'll obviously start off from this past weekend. Our Cleveland Cavaliers picked up the win against the Hawks. Finally, it was nice to see. And obviously, you go this Cavs squad. Who was scoring the most points? Ricky Rubio. Thank goodness, went 3 of 7 from downtown. Unfortunately, we didn't see the same performance out of Jetty Osman in this one. That was kind of a downfall. And I think that's kind of been him the entire time he's been with Cleveland. He's never been consistent. He'll have one great game, and then he'll play like crap for 3, then he'll play great for 4. He's too of an up and down player to be consistent. Kevin Love with 12 points in this ball game, so a lot better than the opener. Ricky Rubio obviously just all over the place there, 9 of 15 shooting, 6 rebounds, 8 assists, and God, does it feel good to have somebody that can pass the rock.
And Rubio said that it was his fault that they lost that Charlotte game because he said his passing wasn't good enough. Well, he really came back and showed it here against that playoff team. The Hawks were in the Eastern Conference Final.
Right, and you just go despite the bad shooting night from Colin Sexton, 5 of 14, 0 of 2 from 3, only 50% from the free throw line. Yeah. It wasn't great for him, but I think one thing Rubio's going to teach him, this younger guy, passing the ball. Sexton's the guy that's averaging, 3-4 assists in his career so far. He hits 5 in this one, and I think as they play together more, he's going to see those lanes open up a little bit more, working with Rubio in practices throughout the year. I think this will make Colin Sexton a better passer, but I think Ricky Rubio is a massive addition to this offense. It is. They changed up the starting 5 this time.
Garland was hurt.
Yeah, Garland obviously not playing in that one. Mobley, 17 points, second leading scorer, 11 rebounds in this game, 4 blocks for him, shooting 58%, went 3 for 3 from the field goal. I mean, I'm loving what I'm seeing out of the young guy.
You gotta love it. And like you talk about with Ricky Rubio, that's one reason I was...
Finally, we hit on one.
Yeah. Probably their best, most
draft picks out of the last
probably
4.
Since Kyrie.
Yeah.
But in terms of Rubio, you were talking about Rubio. That's one reason why I thought they could probably make a run at the play-in tournament this year. Because a guy like that, they had no backup point guard last year. And you had a guy like this that started, he's helped guys like Devin Booker improve their careers. So having a guy like that come off the bench for the Cavs and showing these guys how to pass the ball is what they needed. And with what I'm excited for in the future is what you just talked about with Evan Mobley. Him and Jared Allen, I'm trying to stay ahead of myself. I don't want to get too excited, but them guys are good. That's what the Cavs are going to be going forward.
I think that's what they have to build on. You found your core, right? Sexton, Allen, Mobley. Yep. Those are 3 guys I think you can build around and do something with. And I think you have to see a lot more out of Sexton now in his 3rd year. He's got to have a bigger season than he's had before. And if he does that, if he doesn't do that at least, it might be time to go shopping for a new guard or seeing what the market is like for him. And obviously his contract coming up here in I think 2 or 3 seasons. So he's got some value. If someone was to send him off, he's still on a smaller contract. I think a lot of teams would love to bring a guy like Sexton off the bench. But frankly, it might be a situation he's just not going to work in Cleveland. Yeah. See what you can get for him while you still can. Lauri Markkanen, I think he's a good guy. He has to start playing better, though. Obviously, still young season. But 3 of 15 from the field. At that point, stop shooting, please, and do something else. He got 2 blocks, and I love the big guys for the Cavs, just blocking shot after shot. And I think we had a lot of great performances. We nearly had everybody in double digits. Isaac Okoro had 9, Cedi Osman with 5. I mean, give them a few of their misses back, and everyone that played has double-digit points, and that's what they need. We haven't seen that out of the Cleveland team.
This is a
consistent
team
effort. Even when LeBron was here, nobody else was scoring big numbers besides the big 3.
LeBron would score 40, and so would Irving. He'd put up 40, and then you have other guys.
Love was at 14 points, and everyone else was under 10.
Yeah, and Matt, that's also
this is a team effort.
They played 8 guys and scored 114.
Yeah. That's what when I was watching this game with my dad. I was telling him the same thing. I like the ability that they have with, some other guys didn't play. They're able to go deep if they want to, and that's a problem that they haven't really had in the past. And they're going to need that tonight against the Nuggets. But I like how they're moving the ball. They're getting balanced scoring, and that's what I like. The defense still has to improve. I don't know if I like starting Markkanen at 3 because he's not great on perimeter defense. I'd probably go back to Okoro, but they want to play him at 2, so we'll see what happens with that. But I like how they're able to go deep with some guys and move some different options, put some guys in some other different guys that they're guarding. And these big guys with Allen and Mobley and Markkanen, they did it against a good big in Atlanta, Clint Capella. Yeah. So they were able to get some big blocks inside against him and their other bigs.
Don't forget John Collins.
John Collins as well.
6 foot, 11 big man, and obviously all the big guys in this game pretty much grabbed every single rebound. You had Atlanta go 10 deep here. Trae Young only had 24 points, 1 of 6 from 3-point. And frankly, I think it's the defense that the Cavs play on him in that game. Force him to make the bad shots, and he missed a few that he normally would make. And it was obviously a bad night shooting pretty much for everyone but Cam Reddish, who had 19. Second game, he's gone off for big time for Atlanta. So I think a bright future with Cam Reddish now in his 3rd season. But I think it was a down night. I think you have to give credit to the Cavs defense. And I don't think that's something, as you've said, that we've been able to say in the past season. 101 to 95. Offense still needs to be better for Cleveland. Defense, though, I think finally you can see something coming together.
Yeah, and with this giving up 95 points, better than the first 2 games. I mean, between Memphis and Charlotte, they have 120-ish, 130-ish points. So it's good to see a 95-point game where the defense kind of makes some stops.
Yes.
Get some blocks as well.
Exactly. And speaking of one of those teams they faced earlier on, the Memphis Grizzlies, Ja Morant goes off for 40 points, 5 threes, 9 of 11 from the line, and then 10 assists for him, putting up a 40-point double-double. And you have to give credit to the rest of the starting 5 here. Desmond Bane, 17 points. Jaren Jackson with 12. Steven Adams with 14 points and 16 rebounds. And then DeAnthony Melton with 13 points. And this is a dangerous Memphis Grizzlies squad. Fortunately, they were unable to win against the old Lakers, who finally pick up their first win. LeBron, 19 points. Didn't have the best of night shooting, but I think everyone else came along finally. And you saw Melo went big time, 28 points under the spotlight at home. 6 3-pointers for him. LeBron had 4, and those two were the 2 biggest shooters for the team. 80 at 22 points, didn't get a double-double. DeAndre Jordan really didn't do much to them either. Kent Bazemore with 11 points. Russell Westbrook, once again, kind of doesn't really play well, but they did enough to win the game. And yeah, I think you have to give them credit. They put up 121 points despite no one really having a great night. So can you imagine what the Lakers squad could look like if they all played well together at the same time?
And they found a way. And like you touched on, Memphis is dangerous. They were in the playoffs last year. They have good young core. We talk a lot about Ja Morant. And they were winning this game just by checking the score. They won this game most of the game. And if it wasn't for an outburst like Melo had, they'd probably end up winning this game. And you look like with Westbrook having, 8 or 9 turnovers, that's got to change for the Lakers going forward.
9 turnovers in that game. And I think another big thing you look for, one of the big acquisitions they got in the offseason, I think went under the radar, bringing in, everybody else, all these old superstars. Malik Monk.
You're right.
He's a great athletic guard, and I think he adds so much to this team in terms of speed, athleticism, the ability to, play for a long period of time and not, need to go take a retirement plan. Break. They have some young guys on this team, Austin Reeves as well, and obviously Avery Bradley a little bit younger. And once Kendrick Nunn can rejoin the team, he's still out with an injury or illness. They didn't announce officially, I don't believe. This could be a really good squad, as you said, if Westbrook brings it back. If LeBron and AD continue to be the dominant duo we've seen. If DeAndre Jordan plays better, I think they need to bring Dwight Howard back into the mix. He played 17 minutes in this game, didn't really do much. I think you have to find a way to involve him more. They win that championship 2 years ago with the strength of their bigs. They have to go back to that and not force a guy like Anthony Davis to play center when he doesn't like to. And it's a guy who likes to stretch it out on the perimeter and use the cold floor. If you trap him in the paint, he doesn't play well, and the Lakers offense forces the ball in there way too many times, and you saw it a lot last season. And I think you've almost seen a little bit this season. They've done a better job. They still continue to need to improve, though.
And they've changed their roster, a decent amount the last couple of years. Every offseason seems like, and it seems like every offseason too, not just within a couple of years. So they're gonna have to get used to that, and I think they will find something to move going forward. And with a guy like Westbrook, that's why I kind of question not the trade, but the fit with him with the Lakers. Is he able to change the style of play? Is he able to cut down his turnovers? Can he shoot it? He hasn't really been a great shooter throughout his career, so is he able to find some things out? And we'll have to see. Because, LeBron likes to play point guard most of the time.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to see if Westbrook can try and change his style a little bit. So that's something to look out for with him.
Yep.
Yeah, and right now, another big game. 3-0 for the Charlotte Hornets. They defeat the Brooklyn Nets, and it continues to be their season. Miles Bridges, 32 points. Went to the free throw line 12 times, hit 11 of them. And LaMelo Ball had 18. Continues to be great now in his second season. And Ish Smith off the bench and Cody Martin combined for 27. A great game overall, I think, for this squad. And obviously their defense came right along and shut down the Nets. I mean, when you allow Kevin Durant to get 38 points and no one else to, other than James Harden, to hit double digits, it's a pretty good game plan. And obviously only, 15 points for James Harden there. 2 of 18 shooting from the 3-point line. 6 of 16 overall. 8 assists, 7 rebounds for him. It was just another quiet night, and Joe Harris hasn't been able to shoot the ball well this season so far. Nicholas Claxton hasn't been dominant on the boards. LaMarcus Aldridge, he's just been on and off. There's just been nothing impressive out of Brooklyn so far. And I think the big name, Paul Millsap, he hasn't done anything since he's moved over from Denver. I mean, 5 points in this game, shot it 3 times, played 8.5 minutes. Tell me you bring this guy in from a, Western Conference lineup in Denver that, pushed it all the way down, pretty much got to the championship with a guy like Paul Millsap, and now he's playing 8 minutes. I don't know if there's an underlying injury, what it was. It's hard to follow all the news, but you look at that and you just go, how are you not playing a guy like Millsap more? He would fit perfectly into this offense, another big that can shoot. If they can get him more involved, I think this is a game that they could potentially turn around if they can get another guy in there shooting. And maybe that's just Kyrie coming back because that extra point they need. Which, granted, I think they could use an extra 20 off of him. So we'll see what ends up happening with the Nets. But I think they're kind of in the same boat as the Lakers. They just don't really seem to have that it
chemistry.
Factor. That it factor, the chemistry.
The
mojo.
Old.
They ain't got mojo.
A lot of new guys on both teams.
They're old, too.
Yeah.
I mean, the Nets have some old guys. I mean, Kevin Durant's getting up there, too.
Blake Griffin's old. LaMarcus Aldridge is old.
He's old.
So they're going to have to...
They're the old Nets.
New old Nets.
Yeah, like they're not new. They've had...
Well, whatever.
They've had, Durant there. So.
Yeah, well, I mean... obviously, more games tonight. Mike, you want to talk a little bit about Cleveland-Denver tonight? It should be a big game, 9 p.m., a little bit later for Cavs fans.
So I think with Jokic, obviously not going to stop him, but I mean, as I talk about with the three bigs they have, they can throw different guys at him.
They're not going to stop him, but they're going to limit him.
They can throw guys at him with the guys that they have.
I think the big matchup, though, is with Jared Allen. Jared Allen and Jokic. Right. Evan Mobley can even come there double team, and I think that's kind of why they want Markkanen in there. Have those tall three guys that can kind of switch out. I think they'll stick with that lineup here against Denver, and I think that gives them the best chance of kind of bringing down a guy like Jokic.
And, as I mentioned this, we talked about before the season, too, and I was even talking to you about it. This starts that 5-game road trip for them. If they can get 1, 2, I would really be happy with 2, but I'm going to stay neutral here and just hope for 1 game. Maybe tonight would be the one for them to get, but I think coming home with 1 or 2 would be good for them. Yeah. The young team on the road, they're still finding their ways.
They're clicking.
The teams are playing are hard. I mean, you got Denver, you got the Lakers, you got Clippers, Suns.
Clippers are on 2 right now as well, though. So
you have to go.
Another team that hasn't fallen in shred. Washington 2-0 right now. Atlanta 1-1. Detroit 0-2. Milwaukee at 2-1. Charlotte, there's one of those big teams, and I think we're seeing the potential changing of the guard here. Minnesota started the season 2-0, and maybe that could be a big spot. They made some improvements in the offseason. I think right now you just have to take a quick look, a step aside, and look at some of the rookie numbers so far on the season. Leading the NBA in points for rookies right now, Chris Duarte from playing shooting guard Indiana. He's at 20.3 points. Scotty Barnes in Toronto at 18. Jalen Green in Houston has 16. Evan Mobley from the Cavs at 15.7 points per game. And that gives you your top 4 guys. And you got Franz Wagner with 12 points per game, and Jalen Suggs right now at 11 points per game. Kind of down a little bit, but right now, if you go field goal percentage for all these young rookies, you got some really good guys coming right up there, including Evan Mobley, who sits right now in first place of guys that have actually played meaningful minutes in a basketball game. So
a lot of good guys, a lot of good rookies, a lot of good talent coming up.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta just look at this right now, and good position I think the league sits in right now. But 4 minutes left. I think, Matt, there's a way we got to end the show out here. As we always do on Mondays, or we've always started doing at least. This week's Beast Head. Nope.
Did you do it on purpose?
Nah, I'm done.
I thought you did it on purpose.
I did. This week's Beast of the Week, baby.
All right. So I had a couple of honorable mentions, but I got to give it to Eddie Rosario. It's okay. It's okay. I got to give it to Eddie Rosario, man. I mean, he played pretty good with the Indians, I mean,
he was okay.
He was okay.
I liked him with the Indians. I don't know. I didn't like when he moved him.
Yeah, I was mad. But, they put him in this outfield that was kind of depleted. No Osuna, no Acuna Jr., and they make some big trades that they get Peterson and Eddie Rosario. I think they got Soler too, but Eddie Rosario 14 for 25, 3 home runs, 9 RBIs. I mean, and he had some big home runs too.
Oh yeah.
He put him up 4-1 the other night, and he had some walk-up base hits too. I remember he was electric this whole NLCS. So
NLCS MVP.
Yeah, he got the MVP too. So.
Been discussed. I think he had like 14 hits in the series or something like that.
Yeah, 14 for 25. Yep.
He deserves it.
Oh yeah.
Season carries over in the World
14
Series.
hits also ties the MLB record for a single playoff series.
Can you imagine if it had gone 7 games? He would have broke it.
He would have broke it.
Yeah. So, big shot right now for World Series MVP Eddie Rosario. Got to put him on the watch list. A lot of guys think have a potential to bring home. How about we talk about that real quick? Who do you have right now favorite to take home the World Series MVP?
I mean,
I don't know about favorite. There's a lot of options.
Right?
You know, Alvarez for
Altuve,
Houston.
Alvarez,
Freddie Freeman. Oh yeah, that guy made some plays too. I mean, one of my honorable mentions was him doing that. I don't know if you guys saw. He made a full split to pick this ball out of the dirt. And Trey Turner, who has speed, was coming down the line. It was insane.
I mean, obviously there's dark horse candidates because anybody goes off in a World Series. I mean, dark horses can be like, Dansby Swanson or Kyle Tucker, guys like that.
Dansby Swanson needs to be that dark horse. He needs to be the guy to come up and start. And I think he could have done better in the NLCS than he did. This is where he has to show it.
He's got to be what they drafted. That's when he wasn't the draft. He was one of the top prospects coming up.
He went number 1.
Yep.
Well, that's going to do it here for the Casual Sports Podcast. Starting out another week 7 here on ysnlive.com. Thank you all for tuning in once again. I'm Alec Cabrera. That's Matt Morrison. That's Mike Wolfgang. Power Hour up next at 3 p.m. here on ysnlive.com. Make sure to tune in tomorrow. These two going to take control of the show. I'm taking the day off here, so you're not going to have to hear my great voice. It's just going to be those two. So make sure to tune back in for that one. We'll see you then, though. Peace out.